Welcome to the Eczema Warrior podcast. I'm your host, Julia Chen. I'm here to help you heal your eczema naturally so you can finally live your best damn life. Many years ago in my own eczema healing journey, I was stuck and confused on how to heal my skin. Fast forward to today, after many lessons learned and lots of trial and error, I'm now living my best life and traveling the world with clearer skin. If you're an eczema or TSW warrior who desires a life of food freedom and is wanting to heal your skin without steroids while using mindset and manifestation as a tool, you're in the right place. Now let's get into it. Hi, my beautiful angels. Welcome to another episode of the Eczema Warrior podcast. Let's do a little bit of a life update. So, I don't know if you guys know, but over the past 3 weeks, we have been in a Mercury retrograde, and these past 3 weeks have been insane. So I've been watching some astrology videos, and they were talking about how this is probably the most intense Mercury retrograde since like a few years ago, and something about like 6 different planets are going in retrograde at the same time, which means that a lot of things tend to go wrong during the retrograde. And I'm not an astrologist by all means, but just kind of based on what I'm learning and reading about. And one of my best friends actually is really into all of this as well. And basically in Mercury retrograde, like shit basically goes down. And particularly in this retrograde, people were seeing relationships falling apart, technology not working, flights being delayed, flights being missed. And it's funny because when I was flying to Rome from Colombia, that's exactly what happened. Like literally, I missed every single flight. Every single flight was delayed. And the day that I actually flew from Colombia to Rome was the beginning of the retrograde. And then since I got to Europe, it's been a wild journey. And, I don't really share too much about like my personal life or anything like that, but just know that I have been so emotional over the past 3 weeks, just feeling like super low and just feeling like I'm very stagnant and things aren't going in the right direction, and just feeling very like unmotivated and just like crying for no reason, but also crying for a reason. It's just been like such an interesting retrograde for me. And honestly, I almost felt like I felt bipolar because like one moment I'd be like, oh, so grateful to be here and like happy about everything. And the next moment I'd be like crying about why things aren't working and why do I feel this way. So anyways, it's been a wild ride, and I'm not the only one that feels this way. Like a lot of my friends and clients have also been feeling low and down and realizing that their mindset has been particularly hard to work on. And I'm sure for those of you who have been feeling low over the past few weeks, you probably would resonate with this as well. But it's very interesting because it's literally in the exact time frame of this retrograde resonates exactly with how I feel. And now we're entering into a new moon, which is a new moon in Virgo. And apparently this new moon is supposed to be like a huge shift for basically everyone, depending on your sign as well. But yeah, it's supposed to be a big change. You're supposed to finally feel lighter. Things are going to be moving again. You're going to do better in your career. You're going to have more financial success. Like everything is supposed to get better in this new moon. So I'm honestly looking forward to it because it's just been a shit show, you guys. It's literally been a shit show. Oh my gosh, this is going to turn into like an astrology podcast, which it isn't, but I wanted to share like an update because basically just been feeling all the emotions and having my shower cries and trying to work on my mindset every single day, despite it not really working on some days. Literally some days I would meditate for like, I don't even know, like 3 times at one point, and it just wasn't getting anywhere. I would journal and then like it wouldn't help me feel better. And this is just to show you guys that sometimes your routines are going to be off balance and you're not going to feel good despite, waking up early and exercising and eating good food and doing mindset work. And that's okay. We need to feel into our emotions sometimes and just let them come through instead of forcing ourselves to feel better when you're actually meant to not feel good, because the moments that you don't feel good is always a lesson out of it. Like, what is this teaching you to feel this way? What's going on in your life? And, I did a lot of self-reflection and thinking about like, why do I feel this way? And healing through trauma and like talking it out and journaling about it, just all of that helps, even if in the moment it doesn't feel like it helps. But in the long term, when you're doing this consistently, it's only going to help you become a better person and just learn from your lessons. Okay, speaking of lessons, I am very excited to talk about this episode all about my TSW journey. And particularly, I want to share with you guys some of the lessons that I've learned from going through TSW. It says 5 years here in this podcast episode. And just to be very clear and transparent, I didn't have full-blown TSW for 5 years straight. For context, the worst of my TSW symptoms were the first 2 years, I would say. More so the first year, where I had like the oozing, the deep bone itch, the excessive flaking. I was bedridden. Second year got a lot better. Still had some flares that were quite significant, but it wasn't debilitating. And I basically every year it gets much better. And then by the third, fourth, fifth year, I had symptoms that were more localized in certain areas. So like really significant elephant skin. I had flares mostly on my wrist. My neck was wrinkly and it had elephant skin as well. So the 5-year journey is basically from the worst being in the first 2 years, and then it slowly gets better. And then by the 5th year is when I fully believed that my TSW had completely recovered. And going into just having eczema flares is something that I noticed with my own skin healing journey. So I just wanted to point that out in case some people are like, oh, 5 years of TSW, that's a very long time. But it's basically just how my symptoms improved in the 5-year journey. So if you're someone who is going through TSW or you're planning on going through this episode may be helpful for you. And it's just going to give you some insight as to, some things to consider when you're going through this journey. So number one lesson that I learned from going through my TSW journey is to prepare my mindset prior to starting my journey. And this is something that I didn't know nothing about in my TSW journey, on how much mindset plays such a big role in the healing journey. The reason because, first of all, mindset actually applies to everything. It's not just TSW, but because TSW is such a emotional and mental condition, obviously like physical as well, like you're experiencing like the very intense symptoms, but because of how intense the physical symptoms are, it impacts your mental health completely. And so one of the things that I've been teaching my clients when it comes to working on your mindset is to try your best to solidify it as much as you can prior and during your entire journey. And this is going to include many things. One of them is to know that it's going to be hard throughout this journey, but constantly reminding yourself that you're in this journey for a reason. Not everyone can go through TSW, but you've made the decision to go through it. So now that you are in it or planning to go into it, just remember and remind yourself every day, especially during the tough days, okay, I have a terrible day today and things aren't working. My skin feels awful, but let me just remind myself why I'm going through this journey. And that's a mindset thing to work on, because it's definitely going to come up often in your journey where you're questioning why you're even doing this, but always have a purpose of why you're going through this. For me, my purpose in my journey was that I never wanted to be on topical steroids ever again. I have been on it for 22 years of my life. Less than that, because I was prescribed topical steroids when I was in my early teenage years. So 10 to 15 years of being on topical steroids. And I knew that I wanted to no longer have to carry my steroids around wherever I went. I didn't want to go to the doctor and always get a new prescription. I just wanted to be free from medications. And so in my journey, when I felt that I wanted to give up or that, is this even worth it? I would just tell myself that, like, Julia, you have this purpose of not wanting to be on steroids anymore, and you're going to fucking do it. Excuse my language, but you're going to do it. And this is what your life is going to be like after you go through this journey. You're going to be steroid free. You're going to be happy. You're going to be feeling your best self. And that's something I have to remind myself off, like, throughout my entire journey. And the other thing when it comes to preparing your mindset that I also tell my clients too is that when you're in your journey, it's really important to focus on what is working versus what isn't working. Because when you're going through TSW, there's a lot of things that feel like they aren't working, right? Like your skin is flaring, it's oozing everywhere, you feel terrible, and it's just awful. Like there's nothing joyful when it comes to going through this journey. But sometimes, and honestly, this is what you have to do to just make yourself feel a little bit better, is to find the silver lining when it comes to things. And I know it sounds like impossible. Well, not impossible, but it sounds crazy to have to look for the silver lining when it comes to going through TSW. But you got to do what you got to do when it comes to your mindset. Because if you choose to do the opposite and choose to only look at the negative throughout your entire journey, then your journey is going to feel negative. Your journey is going to feel hard. Your journey is going to feel awful, right? So it's not going to harm you to just look for the day-to-day things that bring you joy, right? Look for the things that are working. If your skin isn't, I don't want to say skin isn't healing because your skin's always healing, but you know what I mean? When you feel that your skin is not where you want it to be, okay, what else is working in your journey? Are you taking time for yourself? Are you resting more? Are you speaking to yourself kindly? Are you trying to make those mindset shifts towards more of a positive mindset? Are you eating good foods for your body because you know that's going to help with your healing? Are you going to the bathroom more? Are you slowing down your lifestyle? Maybe before TSW, you worked really hard, you were grinding every day, you didn't take care of yourself, and now because you're going through TSW, you had to learn to slow down, to practice self-love, to focus on the mind-body connection. Whatever it is that helps your health, those are going to be your silver linings in your TSW journey. Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense. I know it's hard to think that way when you are literally going through the shit, but I always tell you guys, you don't have control sometimes of how your skin is going to be on the day-to-day, on the minute-to-minute, honestly. But what you have control of is your thoughts about your journey and your thoughts about how you feel and everything along the lines of that, right? If we can't control the TSW journey and when we're going to heal, how we're going to heal, then what we control is our mindset and our thoughts around the journey. Because if your thoughts and mindset gives you a certain emotion constantly of like just anger and frustration, then it literally changes your cells and causes a chemical and biological reaction. And it stores it in your body, this negative reaction in your body. And if we store that in our bodies, then that's just going to create more inflammation and more stress on the body, on top of the stress you're already going through from going through TSW. So think about that when you're going through your journey. And, that's, again, one of my lessons that I learned is to just find the silver lining when it comes to my healing. Not everything is shit. Like, I'm doing something for my body that I know in the long term and in my future that is going to be freaking amazing. And looking back now, you guys, like being 8.5 years steroid free, like I can't even believe how far and how long it's been being steroid free, because 8.5 years ago, there was no way I could be living my life, traveling the world, haven't used a steroid for 8.5 years, saw the power of working on myself and healing my body, trusting myself when literally it was the hardest thing to do in the journey. And coming through the other side, you'll look back and be like, whoa, I freaking did that. Like, I freaking did that. And so can you, right? So yes, lesson learned, focus on your mindset, your entire journey from day one, even before you get started. Another lesson that I learned going through TSW is the importance of having support and community. When I started my journey in 2015, TSW wasn't as known as it is today. there was a small Instagram community, and ITSAN, which is a nonprofit organization that supports TSW, they actually had a forum back then. And oh my gosh, I love that forum. You basically create an account and you go into the forum, and there's people all over the world that like post things, questions, comments, help each other out. It's kind of like a Reddit forum, to be honest. And you guys know Reddit is like the shit. And so the ITSAN forum is very similar to that. And I like went to that forum every single day to like talk to people and connect and ask for help. And yes, of course, there's also Facebook as well. There's a lot of community out there that can support you on your journey. So make sure you're getting some kind of support. Like, don't do this alone. And also go beyond the support that you get through Facebook, through Instagram, and through any other social media, because honestly, sometimes that can get really toxic too. And I noticed that in my journey too. And this is also a lesson where I felt so consumed on what everyone else was doing. And I was constantly searching all the time, like how to heal TSW faster. And like, what am I supposed to be doing? What are some products I'm supposed to be using? What are some supplements I'm supposed to be taking? And I was just trying all of these things and just getting so consumed with all of that it just became very toxic for me. And it didn't actually help with my healing because I was just, first of all, wasting money on things that I didn't even know was working for my particular body. And I was just being very impatient because obviously I wanted to heal. So I tried to find every single route to heal faster. So, using the support groups are great, but just see how you feel when you use it. If you feel that it's overwhelming you, then that's a sign that you probably don't want to continue to, immerse yourself too much into it, and seek support elsewhere, right? Like there's so many practitioners, well, more than it was back in 2015, who support people with TSW and eczema. I'm one of them. I went through TSW and I support my clients who are going through it. Particularly, we work on mindset, of course, but other root causes, nutrition, all of that is super important in healing. Look for a dietitian on your team, look for a nutritionist, definitely have a doctor, a counselor, like whatever you need. Like it's important to have an interdisciplinary team that can support you on your journey, because it's not just one program that will heal you, right? One program that will, make your TSW go away. You have to figure out what works best for you and have a team of practitioners to support you in your healing journey. Don't do this alone. It's hard, especially for those of you who have been in TSW for like many, many, many years, and you're still not noticing a change in your skin. It's good to look into your other root causes and look for different treatments beyond just waiting for your TSW to heal. And that kind of moves on to my third lesson of going through TSW is time isn't always the healer when it comes to your TSW journey. And I don't mean that time doesn't heal, like time heals anything, but what you do with that time is really, really important. When I started my healing journey, I was told that you couldn't do nothing to heal TSW faster. All you had to do was wait. So I freaking waited. I waited for 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, even 4 years. And I'm like, okay, but I'm still having these flares. I'm still having this elephant skin. It's definitely not just eczema because it feels different. What is going on? And, I waited this long and I realized that I had missing pieces in my healing journey. I wasn't honing in on the nutrition as much as I should have been. I didn't practice enough self-care. I didn't look into my other root causes. And I only figured this out when I started asking for help. When I reached out to my Chinese medicine doctor and asked her, okay, is there something else going on? Because it's been like 3-4 years of me going through TSW and my skin is still not the way that I want it to be. And she was the one that helped me figure out what else was going on. And also seeing a functional medicine doctor who did like testing for me. And because I'm a dietitian now, I started looking into more of my nutrition. During that time, I was just starting to get into my dietitian practice. I was a student intern, so I was learning about the body and the health and nutrition and things like that. So I started applying that into my own healing. And that's when I saw like significant changes. When I realized that time is no longer the only thing that could heal me, that's when I realized that my body needed more. So it doesn't harm you to use that time wisely to focus on your health during this time, right? It's only going to help you in the long run, even though in the short term, you're not seeing changes right away. It doesn't mean it's not working. Okay, the next lesson that I learned in my TSW journey is not to restrict myself if I don't need to. So you guys know how I feel when it comes to diets. There's elimination diets, salicylate diets, histamine diets, all the diets that are out there for quote unquote healing TSW. But let me tell you, okay, there is no perfect diet that will heal your TSW faster. It comes down to doing what feels right to you, not restricting yourself, and providing the nutrients and the whole foods that your body needs. There's no diet that's one better than the other. But if you restrict yourself from foods that are actually very good for healing, it's only going to make your healing harder. We've seen this with all of our TSW clients who have been on these elimination diets, who've been on these salicylate diets. And yes, it helps for the short term, but in the long term, it created much more issues, more food sensitivities, difficulty adding foods back, and food anxiety. That's a huge one with these elimination diets and restrictive diets. So my lesson that I learned that I'm sharing with you is that I wish I didn't go on these elimination diets because I just was miserable during that time having to restrict myself. And honestly, I don't even think if it did anything to my healing. If anything, it probably made it worse because I was deprived of nutrients. And when you are going through TSW, your body is burning protein, calories, nutrients, from the inflammation and the healing. And so the last thing you want to do is to restrict yourself if you don't need to. So that was a lesson I learned when I unfortunately had to go on these diets for I think a year of restricting myself. So never doing that one again. Okay, the next lesson that I learned in my TSW journey is to learn to trust and believe in myself more. I am someone who I work very hard when it comes to everything, my health, my skin, my business, my career, everything like that. And I remember in my journey, I was determined. I knew that I had to fight this thing. I knew that TSW wasn't winning. And I had to literally brainwash myself to believe that I can do this. Because if no one else can believe me, if everyone else is telling me, Julia, just go on steroids, your skin looks so bad, just go take a steroid shot or something. Literally people were telling me to do that and I was getting so frustrated. I was like, you know what? No. If no one is going to believe that I can do this, and it's only me at the end of the day, right? It's only me at the end of the day that can fight through this. And so I had to really focus on trusting and believing in myself. And I remember those days I would write sticky notes of affirmations and I would stick them on the wall and read them out aloud to myself. And I wish I kept them and showed you guys. But I remember some of the notes saying, I am healed. I am beautiful. My skin is glowing. I believe that healing is possible. I believe that anything is possible. I was just writing all these affirmations on my sticky note and then writing and putting it on the wall for me to remind myself every day. And the reason why I'm sharing this in this episode is, again, when you're in your healing journey, going through TSW, the trust is going to be very hard. The belief is going to be very hard. And you literally have to take inspired action. You have to literally make the effort to do the work to believe in yourself. Because if no one else can, it's only you, right? Because sometimes we don't get the support from the doctor that, we're going through TSW and we're often left alone in our journey. And so when we're left alone in our journey and you're sitting at home every day, you're bedridden, you have these thoughts in your mind, wondering if this is even worth it and wondering if you can even get through it. And so figuring out a way to believe yourself more and trust yourself is going to take you a very long way in your healing journey. The last lesson that I learned in my TSW journey is I actually needed to be more patient than I initially had thought. So when I started my journey, I thought that I was going to be healed in a year. And like whenever I reached that year and the year after, I'd always get disappointed. And I really had to set realistic expectations in my journey and think about, okay, how long have I had eczema for? How long did I use steroids for? And how was my health before starting TSW? And I really had to think about these questions for me to actually be realistic with when I'm actually expecting myself to completely heal. And because my steroid usage was 10 to 15 years of very potent steroids, my health before going through TSW, I was not taking care of myself. I wasn't eating the best food. I was chronically stressed. So healing from TSW in a year was just not realistic for me. So in my journey, and it ended up being 5 years because I realized that I had so much more work to do on my mindset, on my stress, on looking into my root causes. And, I wish that I started earlier with looking into these things. And of course, like I said earlier in the episode, I didn't know that I needed to do more beyond waiting for my TSW to heal. And so I really had to be patient with my journey and not expect myself to heal within a year, given everything else that was going on. So that's something that you may want to take and think about: your history, your health in general, the support that you're getting, all of those things are important to think about. That will kind of tell you, well, not everyone knows what their timeline is going to look like. And we don't really want to put a timeline when it comes to healing, because your body's always healing, your mindset's always healing, but just be realistic with your journey, because the last thing you want is to be disappointed. Because TSW is such a roller coaster ride, you just never know when it comes to the journey. But like I always inspire you guys and let you know that if you're doing the work, if you're asking for help, if you are taking care of your body, giving your body the nutrition that it needs, doing the mindset work and all the things, then you're going to be healing much faster than if you were just not doing anything, right? So yeah, that's what I want to share for today's episode. I hope you found it helpful. My biggest lessons from TSW shared with you in this episode. It's a little longer one today because I feel like I have so much to say. I might even do a part 2, to be honest. Once I release this episode and feel that if I have missed anything, I might do a part 2. And yeah, if you found this episode helpful, you resonated with everything that I said, please, please, please leave me a rating and review and take a screenshot of it and send it to hello@juliachen.ca. This is going to help so much for the podcast to grow organically. And we want to be changing more lives out there. So please, please, please do that on Apple iTunes. And of course, if you're looking for more support when it comes to your TSW journey, or if you have eczema or both, I help my clients inside my coaching program, Clear Your Eczema. This is a 6-month program giving you all the tools, all the strategies, all the mindset things to help speed up your healing progress. I love you guys so much, and we will see you in the next episode. Thanks for tuning in to today's episode. Now, before I let you go, I want to let you know I have this amazing eczema visualization. This visualization has helped me so much when it comes to manifesting eczema healing flares faster than I can ever imagine, reducing the itch, and just feeling great in my body. This is the exact same visualization I use for my own healing as well as my clients' healing as well. And if you want to receive this visualization, then all you have to do is leave us a review and tell us what you think about the podcast, screenshot it, send it to your email at hello@juliachen.ca, and you will receive the visualization to your inbox. I look forward to seeing your review, and we will see you in the next episode.